Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you for everyone for being here today and those joining us online now into the future. Hopefully I can have some energy to get us through the last speech of this session before we all fall asleep and go get some sugar in our system. But yes, I am the MD of Dreadnought Resources. I have a fantastic exploration team, with the exception of Kev, who's here with me, and Deanne. Everyone else is out in the field drilling away and currently preparing to mobilize up to the Kimberley to hopefully continue on with our year of discoveries. So I'm very excited to be here today at the New World Metals Conference. Get the thingamajigger here to work, decide which way I'm going to point. Typical disclaimer, company snapshot. Since this is the New World Metals Conference, or whatever the exact title is, I will spend the majority of today speaking about neodymium, praseodymium, nickel, and copper opportunities that we have in our portfolio and that we'll be focused on working on for the remainder of this year. We are a junior exploration company, have a fantastic board. We've put over $5.3 million of our own cash into Dreadnought. We have not taken a share out. That includes our last capital raise, which was done at 10 cents. We still put in our money at that, even though our share price was dropping thanks to an NdPr price halving since the start of the year. So we remain committed to the value proposition of this company. We continue not to be a lifestyle company. This year we've averaged over 90% of our money into the ground, as we've been extremely busy delivering on our rare earth discovery and preparing for the nickel and copper discoveries that we are currently in the process of delivering. So project overview, we do have quite a bit of a portfolio, and I'll be focusing mainly on Mangaroon. Mangaroon's several projects in one. It's got over 5,000 square kilometers of ground, so you can have a few projects in one, and also the Taraji-Yampi project up in the Kimberley. At the start of the conference today, Eddie Rigg got up there and gave a fantastic presentation about the Lassonde curve, and this actually bodes well with, or ties in well with a message, an email I got from a shareholder last week about where Dreadnought is in the Lassonde curve. Now, this is something that is quite strong in our memory, so I threw this slide together. This won't be on the ASX release that came out, because I did it on the back of Eddie's conversation today. And that is, he gave a talk about how we work the Lassonde curve and how to survive what he called the bathtub, or the orphan period, or whatever term you use for that once you start the study work. When the excitement and retail of discovery starts to wane, you have that technical expertise, the intense money required to do studies, and people lose interest before you get into production and start making money. And talk about how you actually continue to create value when you enter that bathtub. And one of the ones you'll see for the last year and a half, we've been working quite hard on the Yin rare earth opportunity next door to Hastings in the Gascoyne region, a project that's getting into development. And while the NdPr price has halved and starting to come back up since the start of the year, which has taken us down with it, we continue to see a lot of strategic interest and strategic value in that project, and that is why we have continued to deliver the resource drilling and de-risking of that project over the past few months, in spite of the Chinese-controlled NdPr price going down. With billions of dollars of money being invested in Western Australia alone to process monazite, and most of those facilities being underutilized and underfilled, we still receive a lot of inbound interest and see a lot of value in that project. So while that's nearing the top of that Lassonde curve, some of the other items about how you avoid that bathtub: continued exploration. Now, a lot of companies are single asset, single commodity, and Dreadnought has always built a company on exploration, excitement, and discoveries. And that is one of the ways we always have projects sitting there at the base of that pre-discovery, early discovery phase of the Lassonde curve, the most exciting, the largest value creation event in the industry. And that is about maintaining a strong portfolio, killing targets, generating new ones, and having them ready to put that drill hole in and hit that massive sulfide, or hit that high-grade gold, or hit the rare earths. I believe that Dreadnought has built one of the best exploration teams out there on the ASX, with one of the most exciting portfolios of commodities for you to choose from. So if you want exposure to the rare earths that's now underpinning a value that's, depending if you look at Canaccord, Bell Potter, or other prices out there in the industry, is that asset's worth more than our share price at the moment. And you also have exposure to a nickel discovery in process, a copper discovery made in the Kimberley, which we're about to go follow up, and our gold, our carbonatites, and our other projects, other targets in that portfolio coming up. Moving on, other option to avoid the bathtub is a joint venture. First Quantum is already involved with our nickel pre-discovery. We put some holes in that. We hit some massive sulfide last week, and we continued to hit thick mineralization around that. First Quantum is in there with that project. That's de-risked us from a capital standpoint, and we are free carry to a decision to mine with them. So as an example, as an exploration team and an exploration company, when we get to the top of that value curve, that front end of the Lassonde curve, where's the joint venture opportunities? Where's the opportunity to crystallize value through our shareholders like Sirius Resources did with IGO? Or if we don't see that value, we could look at demerging, giving our shareholders exposure to two companies as we build that team to take that asset into development, which is an entirely different skill set to the one that I have as an exploration geologist. And then one of the things that underpins all of our work that Eddie spoke on, which we actually never speak about because we view approvals and things like that as something that is our job. So we like to talk about defining targets, drilling targets, making discoveries, delivering resources. The approvals is what we have to do to ensure we keep to our timelines and keep to our promises to the market. But before we ever drill a hole, we are on the very front foot with environmental approvals. Already at Mangaroon, we put that first drill hole in about 1.5 years ago. We already have over 2 years of environmental studies. We have our cyclofauna surveys. We have our radiometric surveys in the background. We have all of the heritage and all of those approvals in the background underpinning the work before we even put our first drill hole in. We always have an eye to the approvals phase and to fast-tracking anything that is a discovery. As we say internally, we plan for success and we budget for failure. So if it comes time, we get to the top of that Lassonde curve and a major company's coming looking in, we already have 2 to 3 years of all that heritage, environmental background work completed and ready in hand. So that's where we are at the moment. Dreadnought, we have the Yins, which are most advanced. We have our carbonatites, which are ever expanding. The Orion discovery that we made in 2021 into Kimberley, which we're about to get up and start drilling on next week. The Star of Mangaroon gold, for those of us who like gold at some stage in the future. And also the Money Intrusion, the nickel pre-discovery sitting there, which we'll talk a bit more about today. So the Mangaroon project, as I said before, is 5,000 square kilometers of ground. To put that into perspective, we've been working down here on the rare earths. In order to get up to the Money Intrusion, Bukathana North, where we've been drilling, is a 2-hour drive. Our camp currently is at the lead gold mine, and that's an hour drive. And that's going from the middle of the project to the other middle of the project. So it's quite a substantial ground package. And one of the original reasons why we got into this area is because of the Money Intrusion and because of the high-grade gold. We just happened to find the rare earths because we're explorers and that's what we do. So with the Yin ironstones, we have, for the last 1.5 years, been hitting this very hard. Why have we been hitting this hard? We're next door to Hastings. You have Iluka building a monazite processing facility at Eneabba just down the road. You have Linus building a monazite processing facility also just down the road. And you're starting to see these things come into development, that money being invested. So whether or not you believe in the global NdPr monazite trade, you have processing plants being built next door that need feed. So very strategic interest. We could have given away offtake on this project after we drilled the first hole, but we're not going to. We're here to get value for this project and find the best commercial outcome. And why is it interesting globally? Because it has a high NdPr trio ratio. Total rare earth oxides, there's a lot of rare earth elements in there that have 0 value. It costs more to process them than it does to sell them. All the values in neodymium, praseodymium, and so if you're processing monazite or bastnasite, you have to extract all of them in order to get the neodymium, praseodymium. And this region is very anomalous globally. It has almost double the global NdPr trio ratios, and so it's one of the highest value concentrates, highest value feeds if you're focused on getting neodymium and praseodymium. I have a nice typo on there as well. Also has fantastic metallurgy, and we've been delivering that resource base. We've delivered 2 resources so far. We still have, I think we've drilled close to 50,000 meters of drilling this year. So we still have a couple hundred holes assays coming in from that resource drilling, and we'll see a bulk of that resource slightly enlarged and also converted into indicated, which can help underpin the full value of the project and also underpin study work in the future. So next stage is on the ironstones. We're continuing to add to the resources, convert to indicated, and continue project de-risking, like looking for water, continuing our surveys in the background. Taking a step back, looking at Yin by itself is one thing, but if you take the step back and look at this entire region, Like we said before, we're next door to Hastings. In a year and a half, we have almost matched and exceeded the resource base of Hastings, the incumbent next door, going into production with the support of Wyloo and the Germans. In addition to finding the other half of that opportunity in the ironstones, also right in the middle, we've identified the source carbonatite intrusions, C1 to C5. So the opportunity for this area, 20 million tons already for us, 30 million tons up there. We just put out 10 million tons at C3. There is ever-growing opportunity. This could be a multi-generational asset with high NdPr. This area is very, very exciting and certainly primed to be a certain Pilbara Minerals Altura type situation going forward for the rare space in WA. The C5 carbonatites going forward, we see this still providing some significant upside. Peter Siegfried has just handed us a report today that talks about the continued, opportunities and significance of the C1 to C5 carbonatites to give us more than what we've already found. When we first started highlighting the C1 to C5 carbonatites, we saw it was this light pink. It's about 4.5 kilometers long, about 1 kilometer wide. We looked at the cost-benefit analysis of drilling that out or doing geophysics and testing targets, and it was pretty quick to see we could drill that out quickly and get a good idea if there's any mineralization in there. But as we've tried to find the edges of the system, it continues to get expanding. And even past our last extension, which took it down to almost a 9-kilometer long complex, we've now stepped out even further beyond that and continued to be in carbonatites. We haven't been able to find the edge of this thing yet. To put that into comparison, this is already about 9 by 1 kilometers, one of the biggest carbonatite complexes in the world, which hosts 3 rare earth deposits, is Bayan-Obo in China. That's about 14 to 15 kilometers long, 1 to 2 kilometers wide. At the moment, this thing is growing up to be that size. What does that mean for us as an explorationist? We have C3, but we could also have another one or another 2 sitting in there. We now have a bit of data. We're taking some geophysics over this to see if we can't find the edge of this using ground gravity and also find areas of deeper karstic weathering, find that higher grade mineralization with gravity. So we've put a pause to this drilling for the moment. We're reviewing that geophysics, and we look forward to coming back later in this year to do targeted drilling on deeper, hopefully higher grade enriched material. So rare earths set aside, be a lot of assays coming through for the end of the year. The nickel. I'm running quickly out of time, so First Quantum joint venture, we entered into this a very aggressive exploration phase. They own 0% of the project so far. They want to find something high grade. They have to spend 12 mil in order to earn their first 51%, which means they find something that they think is economic, and then they can earn up to 70% by free carrying Dreadnought to a decision to mine. We put our first holes in last year, confirmed high tenor sulfides, and saw that a small trap site generated massive sulfides. So we had a fertile and active system that could form massive sulfides if we found a better trap site. They stepped out a bit further, some EM. We identified a small EM conductor at Bukathana North. It was 37,000 Siemens, and while there are no guarantees in exploration, that was probably going to be sulfides, hopefully high tenor nickel sulfides. And when we drilled that, we hit massive sulfides, but that was within a thick halo of mineralization. And the amount of sulfide in that system was quite surprising, I think, to First Quantum. And we did some blind step outs and confirmed over 400 meters that we continued to see thick, high tenor sulfides, including hole 19 drilled down here, which hit another 2 meters of semi-massive sulfides, completely blind to the geophysical techniques used to date. So why is that important? We have high tenor sulfides here. So based on the work that we've done to date, if this form a massives, like we've seen up at RC13, this thing could be, weighting assays, anywhere between 5 and 6% nickel and 5 to 6% copper, plus cobalt and PGEs. If you take away half that sulfide, you still have something that's higher grade than Nova Bollinger, which means it doesn't have to be massive sulfide for it to be a high-grade economic body. And the EM techniques we've used to date have only searched the shallow space for massive sulfides. So now we're going to be stepping out, and we have significant mineralization without those geophysical responses. Back to the drawing board, we're doing IP, look for that large halo of mineralization, and within that halo of mineralization might be high grades and massive sulfides within it. I'm out of space. Thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to anyone with any questions or wants to talk about the other half of the presentation afterwards at the booth.